Okay, I don't know if you guys saw the video I made a couple months back in September when the Masha Amin protest originally began, where the 22-year-old was killed for her hijab being loosely worn in public. And in that video, I expressed the importance of not being first in media, but being correct in media. And so a couple of days ago, I don't know if you've seen the news going around, it has been saying that the Iranian government, because of these protests, have prosecuted 15,000 citizens for participating in the protests and have prosecuted them through the death penalty. And this outrage has been going all across Twitter, Instagram. But the difference between this and what it used to be when it first started is that a lot of censorship started happening on Instagram and Twitter around this information of 15,000 people being prosecuted by death penalty. And I noticed a lot of celebrities were reposting it on their storylines or their actual Instagram pages saying, you know, this is ridiculous. We stand by Iranians, et cetera, et cetera. And usually what I noticed is when the celebrities were coming out and doing that, their pages were put on temporary mute and the posts were taken down after. So I go and do my own research about this because when Masha Amin was first murdered, like the murder triggered something in me that hurt. Seeing how a woman can be killed over something so minuscule. Seeing how the country rioted behind her. How other women began to protest and take off their hijabs and burn their hijabs. And studying and learning the Iranian Revolution and what caused all of this to be and how history just came back in full circle. I had a duty at that time to give the Iranian citizens as much justice as possible. And so within these past couple of months, those protests have still been going on. Those fights have still been going on. People have still been dying in these protests, being killed. A lot of those people I've heard are not even able to be buried, have proper ceremonies because the fight is still going on. And it's still such a very big thing, just as when it first started. So I go to do my own research about the 15,000 people allegedly being set for death penalty. And as I'm looking at the news articles, I'm looking at the information I get, I'm noticing these publications are not coming from well-sourced people. I'm noticing that the celebrities that are sharing and reposting this picture or this information are not getting their information from well-sourced people. If you search up 15,000 people set to be prosecuted through death penalty in Iran, the writing sources are very much third party. I had to scroll down a lot to even get to the Washington Post. And when I did get to the Washington Post, they were not saying what all the other third party websites were saying. When I went to search for news in the actual Middle East that we as Americans wouldn't normally receive, what they were saying isn't what our American westernized media was saying. And so since I do have a platform, I do want to come on here and make things clear. Because even though what the Iranian government is doing is absolutely horrendous, and how I still stand for the Iranian citizens, the problem is that what happened was the Iranian government prosecuted one death penalty that we know of when it comes to the protests. But for somehow, some way, false, I'm going to say, information came out and said it was 15,000. Now, even though what is happening extremely hurts me, and I really hope these protests finish, and I really hope what these people are fighting for they get very soon, so all these innocent people stop dying. At the end of the day, it's important to transfer the truth than to transfer what you first hear. Because when you look at history and its totality, that is how a lot of the world is still messed up to this day, is from misinformation being spread around. And that's the most dangerous part about it. If you tell somebody, oh, a black person was free and was never a slave, then you will be very confused, right? If you see why black people are walking around saying we're oppressed and saying that we're racially profiled and racially targeted, if you were born to believe that nothing ever happened to us. You know, if you look at these Iranian protests and not understand the Iran revolution and not understand the events that led up to 2022 Masha Amin's murder, you will be very confused. So when we talk about these protests and we talk about what is currently going on, I think it's extremely important to get it correct the first time, because especially with the celebrities and with all these third media outlets, they're going to see a good headline and take it and run with it. A lot of people do not click on these headlines and actually read what is going on in Iran. A lot of these people, sadly to say, do not care about what's going on in Iran, but they would like to show, quote unquote, fake solidarity. They would like to show fake support and make it seem like they're, quote unquote, woke. And so it's easy for them to repost a headline saying 15,000 people were murdered or are set to be murdered for the protest in Iran, and just let that sit on their page for 24 hours and then not think about it ever again. But what you have to realize is that these Iranian citizens are currently going through this as we speak. Us as Americans, it's hard to wrap our heads around what they are truly going through. I look at the videos that are being posted through Twitter, the videos that are being posted on YouTube, news websites, and seeing these people fight. I could never picture being in the middle of that. I can never fully comprehend as an American the fear, the revolution that they are currently fighting. So when I see what they're doing is important, when I see what they're doing that is very dangerous, I think it's also important to get the information correct. Now, I do want to say that a lot of these Iranians, over thousands of them, have been arrested. Over tens of thousands of Iranian citizens have been in custody of the Iranian government. That is correct. But the true information is that only one that we know of, that Americans, I want to make that clear, that Americans know of, have been set to the death penalty. Because as we know and to come to understand is that the Iranian government is very brutal, very harsh, very snake-like. So I don't know the death penalty they probably actually have behind closed doors, that they actually plan to set. But what is shown to the westernized media is that one person has been killed and tens of thousands of people have been incarcerated for the protest. And the sad thing about it is when you look at the charges that are being put on these people that were protesting, it's horrendous. These people are being charged with fighting with God, going against God, for attacking the government, etc., etc. If you understand anything about the Iranian protest, is that they are fighting for their human rights. They are fighting for new lives, new change, for modernized thinking. Masha Amin was killed because her hair was showing through her hijab. They are fighting to have control over their lives. Iranians cannot move, cannot think, cannot live without the government's permission. And it shows through these protests. They can't protest for a better life, protest for a new beginning without being put on trial for death penalty, without being locked up and prosecuted for fighting for something better. They're fighting for a new government. That's the facts. But I wanted to, like I said earlier, quickly come on here and tell you the actual truth, because there are thousands of third-party media websites, news websites coming out and saying, Iranian government has death penalty 15,000 citizens. That has not happened yet. I don't know if that will ever happen. Even though the Iranian government is very reckless and very dangerous, I do hope and believe that they are smart enough to not death penalty 15,000 of their citizens because of the look they already have in the media. I don't know. I do know that they were shutting down internet access to the Iranian citizens. So after a certain time, they cannot document or share to United States or share to other parts of the world or what is actually happening, to slow down the percentage of videos coming out of showing the protests and the killings and all of that. So I don't know if the Iranians are still having trouble with their internet. I'm sure they are. But all I ask of you, if you're listening to this video, please keep these people in your prayers. Because like I said, Masha Amin was killed in September of 2022. We are now in November, in the middle of November of 2022. And these protests are still high. And the way it's looking, it's not going to die out anytime soon. Hundreds and hundreds of people are being killed. Innocent Iranian citizens are being killed on the streets every day from protesting. Life is very brutal for them. And right now, whether it's a prayer, whether it's empathy, compassion, or sharing, or just telling their story, they need us. I know being an American, it feels like there's not much we can do. It's not much of our place to speak. But at the end of the day, when we live on this earth that is shared by millions and billions of people, we have to realize that we cannot let the borders of our country, the races of our skin, the genders of our body separate us from being humans. At the end of the day, when I look at the Iranian protest situation, I see my brothers and sisters fighting for their lives. I see my brothers and sisters fighting for something that's right and fighting for something that's important. I don't see it as America not helping Iran or not caring about Iran. This is important, because if their revolution, another country, another state, another continent can have a revolution. And I feel like with every revolution that is ever started, with every revolution that is made with purpose, we need to stand by each other, whether if we're on the same country or not. So Iranian people, citizens, I stand by you. And I really, really pray and hope that y'all can get the things you're fighting for. I hope that you guys can stay safe out there and know that you are loved and appreciated by me and some of the Americans here. I will still, as the days goes on, as the months goes on, I will still try to document the information that is happening over there. I understand the internet crisis that y'all are having, the outage that you're having, and just because that is happening, your story still deserves to be told.